here I am. I hope everybody can hear me. Hold on a minute. Yeah, see, I'm getting feedback, so I had to mute my computer. I don't know why I'm getting feedback all of a sudden. But anyway, hopefully y'all can hear me. If you can't, let me know in the chat, please. Someone. Anyway, welcome to the show. Good evening. I'm Julia. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host for Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. A 36-year veteran, solo lady driver, retired. And if you're just finding the show, welcome. I got my notes over here so I don't forget what the heck to say. If you wouldn't mind, like, subscribe, and follow the channel. And any of you that are just tuning in and just finding the channel on the audio side, thank you so much and welcome. I talk about what's going on in the trucking industry, what's made the headlines in the news for the trucking industry. And I greatly appreciate all of you tuning in. So, as always, I have lots of news to get to, so let's get right to it. Let's see where I'm at here. A truck driver, our first story, with unconfirmed immigration status is arrested after stealing from the same rig parked at the truck stop not once, but twice. A truck driver with unconfirmed immigration status was arrested. Now, this is happening the first week of December, around the 8th and 9th of December. So this was like last week. After police determined that he stole from a semi-truck parked at a Louisiana truck stop. Deuce and Louisiana police were contacted about the theft on the 5th, December 5th, and the truck driver's suspect was arrested on the 8th. After returning to the scene of the crime. According to that police department, truck driver contacted police on Friday to report that tires, a CB radio, and a GPS had been stolen from his semi-truck while it was parked at a truck stop. Police investigation revealed that a 2014 Freightliner parked next to the victim's truck in the early morning hours of December 4th had left with two tires strapped to the back of the cab of the truck. The Freightliner then traveled over to Texas, where the two tires were mounted on the rig. The truck then traveled to California, where it picked up a load of paste before heading east on I-10 back to Louisiana. And early on Monday, the 8th, the Freightliner was spotted parked next to the victim's truck again at the same Louisiana truck stop. When an officer approached the two vehicles, he noticed an additional tire was missing from the said victim's truck, and it was laying underneath that Freightliner, the second truck that was parked. Two tires on the Freightliner also matched the description given by the victim of his tires that were missing. Officers then confirmed that that no one was given permission to remove any tires, and the driver of the Freightliner was arrested. The thief was identified as a 35-year-old, and I have no idea how to pronounce his name, Seidel Carzana of Hialeah, Florida. Carzana is a Cuban national with an unconfirmed immigration status, according to the Louisiana Police Department. He's being held on one count of burglary of vehicle and two separate theft cases in the Acadia Parish County Jail. And next up, how would you like to be this guy? He is hanging over a bridge in West Virginia. He's inside the cab of this truck, looking down at the ravine below. A truck driver was rescued by a team of firefighters after spending 5 hours stuck in the cab of a semi truck as it dangled off a bridge in West Virginia. The accident happened at around 6 a.m. Mason County, West Virginia, on the 12th of December in the northbound lanes of U.S. Highway 35. According to the local news, a truck driver was hauling bricks when he lost control along US 35 at the intersection of 16 Mile Creek Road. It struck a concrete barrier wall and went partially over the side of the bridge. Partially? Just right. I don't know. Does that look partially to you? How about another picture? And another one. So, yeah. Rescue crews say the weight of the load of the bricks is what kept the truck from falling completely off the bridge. No. You can't really see it from this vantage point, but really this one here. The only thing that's really holding that truck to the trailer is the airlines. Because the tires, I didn't get the exact shot, but the tires, if you could see, you see where the crane is? I don't know if you could see my cursor, probably not. But where the crane is, and just below that, that's where the tires of the tractor are still underneath the front of the trailer. There's nothing holding him to that bridge but a couple of cables, airlines, that were attached to semi-trailer to the truck. That's it. For 5 hours, he was hanging like that precariously. Can we say, you gonna shit your britches? I'm like, really? But thank you so much to the fire department for, they did a lot of work to be able to not let that man fall and inside of his truck. So thank you so much for that, West Virginia Fire Department. And next up, an Illinois representative claims outrageous number of drivers don't speak English during her plainclothes tour of truck stops. Representative from Illinois, Mary Miller, claims that an outrageous number of truck drivers did not speak English during her string of visits to truck stops in her district. She represents District 15 in central Illinois and says that she's in support of withholding federal funds from states that are not compliant with federal CDL requirements. Miller says that her recent tour of truck stops only reinforced her support. Quote, I have in plain clothes gone from truck stop to truck stop in my district, and I go to the cashier and I ask him this question. How many of the truckers come in here and speak no English? And every single time the cashiers have told me almost all of them, end quote. And it's outrageous. Illinois State Police data shows that almost 1 in 5 CDL holders with English language proficiency violations have CDLs issued by the state of Illinois. And that's just as bad when I get down into another couple of articles. That's just as bad as in New York State. Miller says that if the English language proficiency violations do not get under control, she will advocate for withholding of federal funds. Quote, if you don't stop the funding to the states that are flouting our laws, they're not going to change, she says. The bill, the Safe Driving Law Act, that will rescind half of the highway funding to states like Illinois that refuse to cooperate. Illinois Secretary of State's office says the state government already takes the standards seriously and will continue enforcing federal requirements, working with our partners to ensure CDL holders in Illinois meet all licensing and safety obligations. I've been going through Chicago, and she's out of Springfield, Illinois, but all along those corridors, 72, 55, 70, all through Illinois from St. Louis, east, west, whatever, there ain't a lot of them that speak English. There's no way. So it is outrageous. These used to be good jobs for people that didn't go to college, and we should restore the trucking industry back to American people, Miller continued. I quote, and I want to go after the trucking companies is another thing that's hiring these people. So Good on her. That's all I got to say. And the reason being for that is because if you come to this country and you're going to work here, know the language. If I'm going to go to France or Italy or something, not everybody speaks English. I mean, they do, but their native language is French or Italian or something like that. And then they go off in their houses or wherever, and they're going to speak their native language. So you have to know the language. It's just, if you're going to, especially if you're going to work here, you have to know the English language. That's my personal opinion, and it's how I've always felt about it. Minnesota, in this story, stops issuing non-domiciled CDLs. In other words, people not living in Minnesota, following U.S. DOT's warning that $30.4 million is at risk to that state. Minnesota has hit a pause on issuing non-domiciled commercial licenses after the U.S. Department of Transportation threatened to withhold tens of millions in funding from the state. On December 3rd, Minnesota Driver and Vehicle Services, their DVS, kind of like a DMV, announced that it has immediately paused issuing non-domiciled CDLs and is working on a plan to come into compliance with federal licensing guidelines. They take their role in issuing commercial driver's licenses and keeping Minnesota roads safe very seriously, says the director, Pong Zong. I'm like, really? USDOT accuses Minnesota of illegally issuing 1 in 3 non-domiciled CDLs. State's non-domiciled CDL pause comes after the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said that Minnesota stands to lose $30.4 million in federal funding, following a federal audit that showed that 1/3 of Minnesota's non-domiciled CDLs reviewed by the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, were issued illegally. Minnesota says that the state currently has 2,117 non-domiciled CDL holders. Yeah. In a December 1st letter, I mean, I could go on. They're pushing back. They're saying that they're admitted to finding some administrative errors with issuing the non-domiciled CDLs. So, it's quite a lengthy article. I'm not going to bore you with all of it here. But so the new, in other words, the Department of Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, is cracking down after decades of not going after this law that you have to know English, you have to be able to read and write it, you have to know all of the traffic signs, you have to be able to speak it. They're finally going after that law. It hasn't been put in place in decades, as I mentioned. So I won't bore you anymore with that story. Let's go on to the next one because I have lots to get to. And sadly, 3 people were killed after a semi-truck strikes an SUV on the shoulder of a New Jersey turnpike. 3 people were killed in a 2-vehicle collision along the New Jersey Turnpike. This happened December 7th around 1:30 in the afternoon in East Windsor Township. An SUV driven by Ilan Waith parked on the right shoulder of the turnpike. Waith was standing outside of the car while 3 passengers remained inside. Police said that Dimitri I. Kira of Philadelphia was driving a Peterbilt semi southbound on the New Jersey Turnpike when he went onto the right shoulder and struck the rear of the SUV. Mr. Waith and Quathy Waith, 47, and a juvenile passenger all passed away as a result of the crash. This Kara suffered minor injuries, and at the time of the writing of the article, the crash was under investigation. And a bill that seeks to deploy state-of-the-art technology at an intermodal hub to combat cargo theft. Now, an intermodal hub is putting it on railroad, so containers and this kind of thing. It's what we call a cross dock in the trucking industry, where I bring in a shipment, and then it gets offloaded from my semi truck, and then it gets put onto a container, and then it gets put onto the rail, and then it gets delivered wherever by rail car. A pair of U.S. senators hope that their new bill will help leverage technology to protect the U.S. supply chain from the growing threat of cargo theft. On December 4th, Marsha Blackburn, representative of Tennessee, and Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat of Minnesota, introduced Cargo Security Innovation Act to ensure that those on the front lines of the fight against cargo theft have the state-of-the-art technology to protect their operations. The bill would create a pilot program to deploy advanced law enforcement or cargo security technologies at intermodal hubs across the country. It would also require reporting on the effectiveness of these technologies to be delivered to Congress. Blackburn said that cargo theft increased by over 50% in 2023, resulting in losses of over $400 million. Quote, cargo theft is a pressing issue impacting businesses in Tennessee. We need to shut down these organized crime groups that steal essential goods from Tennessee to traffic drugs and weapons, said Blackburn. Our bipartisan Cargo Security Innovation Act would help law enforcement bring more of these criminals to justice and disrupt these sophisticated cargo theft rings to protect our supply chains. And the bill is endorsed by the American Trucking Association, the Association of American Railroad, Intermodal Association of North America, the Greater Memphis Chamber of Commerce, and IMC Logistics. And there has been a lot of cargo theft going on, as she mentioned. And in this story, what's making it even worse is AI. Artificial intelligence is making it even easier for organized crime to intercept cargo through the load boards, how trucking companies and owner-operators find their loads. Data recently released by Versic CargoNet shows that criminal groups have turned to online methods, many that use artificial intelligence to steal cargo instead of swiping the goods from parked trailers. Quote, I think the criminals have identified that the weak point between point A and point B is in the transportation. This Michael Evanoff, Chief Security Officer and Strategic Advisor for AI Security Company, told local news outlet, so instead of putting yourself in harm's way by going to a distribution center or a warehouse, why not capture it in transit? This year, the United States have seen $318 million in losses from stolen goods, with the average value of stolen shipments around $278,797. Instead of heading to truck stops and distribution centers, these now utilize malware online on the load boards in order to intercept the freight. The criminals use these load boards to determine which loads they would like to target and post as legitimate truckers or trucking companies. I've seen this done. I've seen somebody go into pick up a load at a warehouse, pick up the load, leave the warehouse, go down a couple miles down the road, and then pull off the signs off the truck and be a completely different company. And then go and sell the whole load on the black market someplace and then keep the profits. And the shipper and the warehouse, the customer, are both at a loss. Let's back to the article. Quote, you could find a load or a driver in a company that could find a load to move their equipment, Lewis said. That's where the big problem comes in. We don't know who we're talking to on the other end of I wouldn't even say a phone line, but the other end of the computer network. When I was an owner-operator, you would bid on a load, you would call the broker, they would tell you a little bit about what it is, but now anymore, you're on the FMCSA website called Safer, and you have to have a good credit score, you have to have a good delivery score, and this kind of thing, that they are checking you out before they even give you a load anymore, and you have to be in business longer than 30 days. So not all of this is true from an owner-operator's, standpoint. But you can turn around and fake a lot of that stuff anymore. Anyways, Lewis says that many of these load boards now use AI to screen drivers and trucking companies to determine if they are legitimate, and that fooling AI into believing they are legitimate is easier than fooling actual humans. Quote, the vetting process has just almost gone out the window, he says. So you think about, well, who's vetting this truck? Who's making sure it's the right truck or with the right driver? No one. Some criminals even use fake identification and paperwork to intercept a load. Almost all the cargo stolen through these virtual means ends up overseas, where it can be sold freely without much risk of even being found out. Quote, we have tracked these groups for 40 plus countries, he says. The bad guys have set up a supply chain that's somewhat legitimate overseas. When they get access, the ocean, with these goods, they're not stolen anymore. There's no tracking. They can move them freely around the country and around the world with no hesitation. Currently, researchers and law enforcement say they are focusing on simply identifying the habits of these criminal groups, with very few actively making arrests or crimes. And 3 more ELDs, electronic logging devices, are knocked off of the FMCSA approved devices list. So I'm just letting the new owner operators know that they have a list of standards that you need to meet, and the providers, I'm just going to run through this article real quickly, are Pioneer Safety Solutions, Black Bear ELD, and Rolling Trans. They are all off the list. Their failure to meet the requirements. So I'm not going to run down the whole thing. If you have these, you have to unplug them and you have to go back on paper logbooks. Device name is PSS ELD, Black Bear ELD, RT ELD Plus, Accurate Elite. And DHL, just like FedEx and UPS, DHL deploys new Tesla semis in a 100-mile daily route. DHL received its first delivery of a new Tesla semi-truck that will be deployed on a 100-mile daily route. The electric Tesla semi was first tested in a successful pilot in Livermore, California. I'll talk about it right eventually. Where DHL says it exceeded expectations. Quote, our pilot of the Tesla Semi exceeded expectations, proving its ability to efficiently haul a typical DHL freight over long distances on one single charge. Yeah, they go about 500 miles. Transportation DHL Supply Chain North America in a press release. Integrating the Tesla Semi into our fleet is an important step forward, achieving our decarbonization goals, blah, 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 blah. And why I do that is because it's the same rhetoric I've been talking about for the last 7 years. It's coming to fruition. Started talking about this about 6 years ago, and it's taken this long, and it's finally coming to fruition. Now officially part of the fleet, the electric Tesla semi-truck has been deployed on a 100-mile daily route in Central California. It's expected to require only one charge per week. There again, that's why they're only going 100 miles. DHL plans to add more to its fleet in 2026 as the automaker ramps up production. And yeah, so be looking for them out on the highway with a whole bunch of cameras around the top and everything. That's how you could spot them. And up next, a trucker organizes mobile Christmas show to prove truckers aren't just dirty, stinky, overweight guys. No, they're cute women like me, too. A truck driver in Michigan organizes what has been called a mobile Christmas show to spread cheer to truck drivers and prove to the public that drivers aren't just dirty, stinky, overweight guys. Like I said, they're cute women, too. The decorated Christmas convoy occurred along Red Arrow Highway and Timu Township, Michigan on the 6th and been happening for the past several years. Quote, you miss a lot of family time and you miss a lot of the holidays, says Noah Melton of the event. So it's kind of nice to have everyone get together for something like this to spend some time together. Melton and other participants say the mobile Christmas show started with a blow-up Santa and stuffed animals tied to the back of a truck and has escalated since then. The event is not funded in any way except for the money procured by the planning committee to feed the truck drivers involved. Quote, I think truckers often have an image of dirty, stinky, overweight guys that are just out there running the highway, said Melton. But we're just your everyday people, and this is a way to bring a little bit of cheer for us. Mobile Christmas show lasts about 2 hours. Planning committee says that they hope to turn the event into a charity fundraiser by next Christmas of 2026. So what it is a bunch of truck drivers. They all get congregate in Michigan, little town in Michigan. They decorate their trucks like you see here in lights and stuffed animals and this kind of thing. And then they make like a Christmas parade of nothing but trucks is about what it is, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. I think it's pretty cool. I think every town needs to have it. And in this story, 11,000 international trucks are recalled for a parking brake problem that could cause a crash. International Motors has recalled thousands of newer model trucks for a problem related to the parking brake system that could increase the risk of a crash. The recall affects 11,418 international trucks, with an estimated 100% of recalled vehicles having the defect. All right, so let's get to the model that makes, models, and years of the recalled vehicle. So I'm trying to run through this. International LT 2023 to 2026, International RH 2023 to 2026. In order to remedy the defect, dealers will replace the quick release valve on the rear axle free of charge. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed on January in 2026. Truck owners may contact International Customer Service at 1-800-448-7825 and reference recall number 25524. That number again is 1-800-448-7825. Reference recall number 25524. If you do own one of these type of internationals and you don't get your letter in the mail, please jot down that number and make sure you give them a call. You can always call and make sure that your truck is either on the list or not on the list as well. And up next, truck driver with a lit Christmas candle in his cab blew just under the blood alcohol level. A truck driver with a lit Christmas candle in his cab blew just under the legal blood alcohol content limit during a routine traffic stop in British Columbia last week. The incident occurred on December 4th in Fruitvale, British Columbia. According to the local news, 52-year-old truck driver was initially pulled over for speeding, but when the officer approached, he noticed a lit Christmas candle in the cab with the driver. An open alcohol container was also noted in the cab. He's just having a little Christmas cheer. I mean, come on. Quote, that's not funny, but it would be DUI. Quote, it's possible that the driver is very fond of Christmas candles, said the officer in a statement. It's also possible that he was trying to mask the odor of liquor. The truck driver submitted to a mandatory alcohol screening, which Canadian authorities say can happen to any driver at any time, and blew a warning. This means that the truck driver was just under the limit, but did have enough alcohol in the system to warrant some minor consequences. The truck driver was given a 3-day immediate driving prohibition, couldn't drive for 3 days. He was cited a $230 ticket for an open liquor container and a $138 ticket for just over 9 miles an hour over the speed limit. The truck owned by the company was also impounded for those 3 days, so he definitely wasn't going anywhere. And in this story, the Army helps in management of a truck fire involving a trailer full of howitzer rounds, if I pronounce that right. And a team of Army specialists was called in to help after a semi-truck hauling howitzer rounds caught fire near Indianapolis. This happened on the 9th along Interstate 65. According to the local news, the semi-truck was hauling a load of approximately 300 howitzer rounds when the truck caught fire. Now, let me show you what a howitzer round is. This is kind of a squish picture, but that's on the right of the picture is like a standalone howitzer. They also have them mounted on tanks. On the left, that's what he was hauling, if not taller, on pallets, and then they were standing up. So it was 300 of them in that truck, and the truck caught on fire. That would have made a big bang in Indianapolis. I-65 was shut down at exit 64 to exit 55. So for about a good 9 miles, for about 4 hours, his teams worked to render the munitions were safe. No injuries were reported, thank goodness, and then the interstate was later opened that day. And California Highway Patrol stopped a semi-truck for 82 miles an hour speeding in a 55 mile an hour speed zone, and that also leads to a DUI arrest. California Highway Patrol recently arrested a truck driver for DUI violation after initiating a traffic stop for speeding. Troopers say that a semi-truck was initially stopped on southbound US 101 for speeding at 82 miles an hour. According to the vehicle, displayed signs of intoxication, but reportedly refused a chemical test, forcing troopers to obtain a warrant from a judge for a mandatory test. Following the test, the truck driver was arrested for DUI. And California has zero tolerance for driving while intoxicated. And this is our top story, a truck driver was killed after climbing onto a box truck during a road rage altercation. A truck driver is dead after climbing onto another driver's box truck during a road rage altercation on I-84 earlier in the week in Hartford, Connecticut. This happened on the 9th of December last week. According to the local news, a box truck was traveling in the center lane. Semi-truck was traveling in the right lane. Now, if you're looking at the photo, the box truck will be right behind the fire truck that's over in the right lane, and the semi-truck is off on the shoulder. When the two drivers became involved in a road rage situation in congested traffic. At one point, the truck driver exited his truck, ran across the congested highway, climbed onto the box truck, and a disturbance ensued. The truck driver was then run over by the box truck driver and was killed in the incident. It's unclear if the truck driver responsible for climbing onto the box truck was run over by the box truck driver intentionally, or if he just slipped and fell and then got run over by accident. Quote, in the midst of the disturbance, one of the involved individuals was run over by the other vehicle, state police said. Neither of the truck drivers were identified as the writing of this article. And now let's go ahead and take a short break.
Down to Christmas chaos? The Getting Ready for Christmas coloring book is the lifesaver. Just hand it over. Full-size pages of elves, presents, and festive fun. It's like giving your kid a backstage pass to Santa's workshop, keeping them busy and creative while you sip that peppermint mocha in peace. Personalize the first page, and on the back page, there's a QR code that you scan for bonus pages. Grab it now and let the holiday magic begin. Visit jvasbooks.store to get yours today.
And up next, Missouri Trucking Company CFI to be rebranded as Heartland Express by end of 2025. Heartland Express announced plans for the integration of CFI by the end of the year. Company officials said in Joplin, Missouri headquartered CFI U.S. operations will be integrated into Heartland Express brand effective December 31st, which is, already next week. Heartland is out of Iowa. They bought up a whole bunch of companies and Smith as well as CFI. I've known that for the last year now, and now they're finally going to be changing everything over. CFI will no longer be in operation. It'll be operating as Heartland. And so they will, CFI's Mexican operations will not be affected, it says, will not be impacted. The integration process will include rebranding CFI to Heartland Express. Like I said, so all of the lettering and everything that you see on the truck will no longer be there. And Iowa 80. Now, there's a large truck stop on Interstate 80. If you haven't been, you need to go. It is the world's largest truck stop. It's huge. They have multiple restaurants. They got they have, you could get any kind of hats made. So leather goods, t-shirt, huge chrome shop, even have semi-trucks parked inside the building. All sorts of stuff in there. Well, they have a small museum. Well, now the museum is gonna go ahead and be expanded in 2026. So the collection of trucks and trucking memorabilia has outgrown the current facility, said the marketing manager of the Iowa 80 Group and its world's largest truck stop. And also the granddaughter of the original founder of the truck stop. So we're looking forward to displaying new trucks in our collection, including 4 new Sterling trucks that were added to the collection last year, she says. We also will have a 1948 Mack Esquire, which was an armored coin carrier for Wells Fargo, available to the public for the first time post-restoration. Meyer says the Mack ESQ, or I call it Esquire, has been restored by the Iowa 80 restoration team over the last 4 years. So we're excited to unveil this truck to the public soon. The cost of the project has not been released, but the construction is expected to be completed by October of 2026. The last expansion of the museum was completed in 2021. Construction over the next year will not impact the operations of the current museum building, which is first opened in 2008. So I've been going by there a long time. It's pretty cool to see all that if you're into vehicles and cars and this kind of thing, or trucks. So it's pretty cool to see. Stop in. Have a bite. 685 CDLs issued to unqualified non-citizens by Washington State since 2018. So all these states are now having an audit by the one second. By the I'm getting something on in the chat. Just a second. But anyway, So there we go. I've been getting spammed in as far as the chat goes, so apologize about that. I had to get that fixed. Uh, as I was mentioning, all of the states are getting audited, and they're finding out now how many unqualified non-domiciled citizens do have CDLs. And it doesn't, these numbers don't surprise me a doggone bit. So let's talk about the article. Washington issues 685 incorrectly issued commercial driver's licenses over the last 7 years, reports a recent investigation. Investigation into the state's issuing of CDLs began after truck driver attempted an illegal U-turn in Florida that killed 3 people earlier in the year. Questions regarding his eligibility for his CDL, which he obtained in Washington, prompted this investigation to the licensing department. This week, the state announced the findings of the investigation. The Washington Licensing Department has since discovered that he was wrongfully issued a CDL, and also the 685 other individuals were also wrongly issued CDLs since 2018. All 685 licenses were active when the error was discovered. The 685 number does not include any wrongfully issued licenses that have since lapsed or expired. Quote, errors have been addressed, and their licensing department is working to make changes in their system, process, procedures, and training to prevent misissuances in the future. They could have been bribed. Talk about a bunch of, like in Massachusetts, that happened where a state patrol was being bribed to issue CDLs for somebody and let them pass the test and everything, and they never even, had the chat, or not chat. They never even passed the license at all. So, it just was really weird. I'm just checking on something. But the failure to follow federal law, as the article states, is a blatant breakdown in its responsibility to protect the public. By handing out standard CDLs to drivers who were never eligible, Washington State sent unsafe foreign drivers onto the highways across America and put countless families in danger. This is exactly the kind of negligence Secretary Duffy is working to eliminate. Following the law is not optional. The 685 license holders have been given an opportunity to update their legal status with the state if they have received their green card or other immigration status changes. Washington has since stopped accepting all non-domiciled CDLs and learner permits. So they have cut it out, I guess. But I apologize for the interruptions. And yeah, here we go. That is not cool. What you're seeing there is that hole underneath that trailer is all damaged. Troopers say the semi-truck driver, he bypassed the scales. You're supposed to go in this country, you're supposed to go into the scales, get weighed. They look your truck over, make sure, no flat tires, no kind of damage like this, so that you're safe to go down the highway. And then you go back out. And a lot of times you just roll in, go across the scales, and roll back out again. He bypassed the scales because he was trying to hide how bad this trailer was damaged, and it was still rolling down the highway with all of this. If you look real close, here's another angle. You could see up through the floor of the trailer. The whole floor is taken out of this trailer. As you could see there, those are all steel or aluminum cross beams that are all cut. He got into some kind of really bad accident. So it's all cross beams. Troopers with the California Highway Patrol found major damage to the semi-truck's trailer after stopping the vehicle for bypassing the scale house. This happened last week on the 10th. Troopers obtained California Cottonwood. They were stationed, at the vehicle enforcement facility weigh station and detailed a recent encounter with a truck driver who say skipped the scales to try to conceal a badly damaged trailer. It wasn't until the officer had a clear view of the passenger side of the vehicle that he found the reason why the driver attempted to go down the freeway unnoticed. They shared several pictures. The troopers took these photographs. So, yeah, not cool to be driving something that wrecked. And trucking companies urge action over a 1% backdoor toll increase for commercial vehicles on the New York State Thruway. Dozens of trucking companies are pressing state officials for action on what they're calling a new backdoor toll increase on New York State Thruway. Starting in January of 2026, a 1% administration fee will go into place on the New York State Thruway for providers of toll management services for the commercial trucking industry. Why are they always picking on truckers? I just don't understand that. The fee increase is intended to cover the cost of administering a new toll management service provider program and for providing data to the toll management companies. That's not our fault. If you want to go in and use all of these kind of new tools and everything, why should we have to pay for it for? That's part of the tolls that we already have. So if you can't expand by using the money that you already have in your system, why do you keep, hiking up the prices for just the drivers? What about the cars? In response to the news, more than 100 companies signed a letter addressed to the governor asking for relief from the 1% fee increase that they say will be passed on to the trucking industry. The company, spearheaded by fleet management software provider Fleetworthy, called the 1% fee a new backdoor toll increase and argued that the fee would negatively impact transportation companies, employees, and New Yorkers. And then that goes on as well. So, yeah, you're being watched, people. And excessive wait times continue at a facility, reported to OSHA by a truck driver last week. What? Because you cry to OSHA about having to wait a long time to get a load, that you think they're just going to run in and change everything? Yeah, that don't happen. Truck drivers are still experiencing excessive wait times at a facility in Texas, despite a driver's report to OSHA. Truck drivers at Graphic Packaging in Waco saw wait times of more than 8 hours in lines more than half a mile long. Just 1 week after a driver made to wait 13 hours for failure to provide and reported to the facility to OSHA for failure to provide access to bathrooms. It's called a porta potty. This is my first time being here, said this truck driver, and I can tell you this was the worst experience I've been in for a minute since 8:30 this morning. It's my first time here and the last time here, added a fellow truck driver. Apparently you never hauled produce over out in California and had to wait at a cooler for 18 hours for the lettuce to cool down. I've done that. You sat there at a field and they cut it off the field and had to bring it in and then turn around and you sat there and waited until that lettuce or cabbage or whatever it was cooled off so you could put it in your trailer and they wouldn't put it in hot and it wouldn't get moldy. But back to the article, I digress. The truck drivers were all in line waiting to deliver or pick up recyclable materials and were giving no warning that the facility was experiencing such massive backups. Some drivers say they had only been moving a few feet an hour. There ain't even giving no explanation. That's the crazy thing, said Logan. I pretty much lose the day. I came here to make money, not to sit in line all day. Wah, 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 wah. A lot of drivers might have to lose a load, said trucker Dallas Owens. If you lose a load, you lose that money. If you don't have the time to do a load, then you lose your money. In all the states I've been to, this is the longest wait I've ever had. Wah, 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 wah. Welcome to trucking, guys. Welcome to the trucking industry. You hurry up and wait. Get used to it. What about Walmart? You never go to Walmart? Have to wait 4 hours for a load? I cry for you. Well, because you're not in and out right away? Boo frickin' who. But anyways, some good news. A truck driver gives a shout out to a Colorado trooper for helping him after he lost engine management. In other words, the truck stopped while he was going down a mountain pass. A truck driver took the time to shout out a trooper with Colorado State Patrol for offering patience, reassurance, and commitment to safety when his truck experienced a mechanical issue on Lavetta Pass. On December 11th, Colorado State Patrol shared a letter that a truck driver sent in expressing gratitude for this Corporal Sanchez of Troop 5B for offering assistance during a rough day on the road. And I'll read it. Captain Johnson, I'm writing this note to you to commend Corporal Sanchez for the assistance provided in early morning of December 1st. He's a CDL holder employed by Walmart, and on the morning of December 1st, I lost engine management while descending La Vida Pass. After coming to a halt at the bottom of the pass, I found myself with extremely limited communication and was clearly not in a good mood. Corporal Sanchez passed my location while patrolling US 160 and immediately turned to evaluate and assist. He was friendly, helpful, and clearly enthusiastic with all of his duties. While providing additional early protection for my position, he also started pre-planning to help get my tractor trailer moved to a safer location in case my own calls for assistance failed. After I established a tow myself, Corporal Sanchez resumed patrol, but I saw him pass my location at least once, checking on my situation. He also returned and posted in a protective position while the tow crew hooked my truck. Being a former emergency responder myself in a previous career, I have a special appreciation for law enforcement and the 90% of forgotten, underappreciated positive interactions. If Corporal Sanchez is an example of the rest of your staff, the Alamosa region is in excellent hands. Thank you, driver, Walmart Transportation. So, good job, Corporal Sanchez. And that's his picture right there. And a bill to allow under 21-year-old truck drivers to cross state lines if they remain within a 150-mile radius of their home state is maybe passed. What do you all think of that? Now, I can understand farmers when it's harvest time and they need the extra help. I never ran a truck, but I ran tractors during haying season and stuff. But what do you all think? Leave a comment on the YouTube channel or any place you hear the show on the podcast. So, a Wyoming legislator introduced a bill that seeks to expand opportunities for truck drivers who are under the ages of 21 along limited interstate routes. There I am. I want to see where the heck I'm at in my list here. On December 11th, Rep. Harriet Hagman, Representative of Wyoming, introduced the Responsible Opportunity for Under 21 Trucking Engagement Act. The Route Act seeks to change current law that restricts CDL holders who are under 21 to intrastate operation only. Federal barriers prevent capable young Americans from entering the trucking industry. At the same time, we are removing illegal aliens who unlawfully obtain CDLs. That makes it even more important to open doors for American workers to fill these jobs and strengthen our economy, she says. You know the political rhetoric. Wyoming and other rural states face needless challenges because federal regulation blocks young CDL holders from making short interstate trips. It makes no sense that drivers are allowed to travel from Gillette to Evanston, Wyoming, but prohibited from driving right across the state line to Belle Fourche, South Dakota. America should never rely on illegal labor to move our goods. The bill is endorsed by OOIDA, Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association, and the Wyoming Trucking Association. So we will see, excuse me, if it becomes law. And Wyoming troopers respond to 39 semi-trucks that were blown over last week due to high winds. This is just self-explanatory here. The winds were extremely high last week with all the windstorms. They weren't really saying they were out across I-80. Took place in a 6-mile span in Wyoming from Cheyenne to Wheatland. And I-25 mile markers 2 and 3, I-25 mile marker 71, I-80 mile marker 279 were hot spots for all of these blowovers. There were powerful wind events, but it didn't say how many mile per hour the winds were when these trucks got blown over. And a smoke from a prescribed burn sparks a 7-vehicle pileup involving 3 semis and 4 passenger cars. Smoke from a controlled burn, I call it, created poor visibility that led to a pileup along Alligator Alley in Florida early last week, Friday, on the 12th. The crash happened around 10 after midnight on Friday morning, December 12th, on Interstate 75. According to the Tampa Bay News, the pileup started when a semi-truck driven by a 41-year-old man stopped in the lanes of travel because of poor visibility due to smoke from a detailed burn, prescribed burn. A second semi-truck by a 44-year-old man then crashed into the back of the first rig. Then it just chain reaction. And reports state that all 4 trucks were tractor trailers, but pictures from the scene showed that one of the vehicles may have been a box truck from here. So, yeah. The show's going a little bit over an hour at the moment. I'm almost finished. Thank you all for your patience. And up next, more than 100 trucks inspected during a 3-day operation at Arkansas Way Station, focusing on CDLs and English proficiency. So they were on I-30, 107 commercial vehicle inspections, 78 violations were uncovered, 30 drivers were placed out of service, and during that 3-day enforcement. So there again, I'm just kind of summarizing. And can you imagine trying to... this picture is not AI that I think. What do you think? Do you think this picture is AI? Because that has to be a really high-speed camera to catch that truck going that fast with that background going across like that. So again, New York has been audited for CDLs, and that showed that 53% of what they audited were non-domiciled CDLs were issued were illegal in the state of New York. So all these states are, like I said, are getting audited. I'm not there again. It's a pretty long article, so I'm not going to run through it. But yeah, you could just imagine 53% of that's just a sample that they pulled. I want to see real quick. They said New York stands to lose $73 million in federal funding if it does not act quickly to remedy the issues uncovered by the audit. 107 non-domiciled CDLs were issued in violation of 200 sampled records. They found 107 non-domiciled CDLs were issued in violation of the federal law. New York State has 30 days to comply with the U.S. Department of Transportation requirements to avoid the loss of millions in federal funding. There you go. And this semi trucks are finally banned from this 110-year-old bridge after years of bridge strikes. Semi trucks are now banned in Oregon after years of them striking this bridge and causing damage. They were it's been closed. Trucks weighing more than 19 tons. It's been closed off to this bridge. The county is coordinating with the Oregon DOT, Department of Transportation, to formally implement the restriction. County is making this change after semi-trucks have repeatedly hit the bridge, frequently taking the turn onto the bridge too quickly. These crashes often result in damage to the bridge or to the approach to the bridge. And Oregon DOT announces a fine increase for motor carriers' end of trust carrier partner program. If you are a moving company, and that's where the fine increase is going on in Oregon. And I will talk more about that in next week's show. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in this week. Sorry it's been a little bit over an hour, but I greatly appreciate everyone joining me and all the new people that have joined and found the channel. Please like, follow, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it, and it helps the show get into the algorithm on YouTube. Please like, follow, comment, and subscribe if you're just on the audio. You can find us on Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, Audible, if you're driving or whatever and would like to listen to the show. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Until next time.